It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It is time for the next interview in our interview series on the Greg Cherry Show. Greg Cherry, Maddie Laws with you as always, and joining us today, very special guest from the Black Girl Wrestling Podcast. It's Dani. Dani, welcome.
Good morning. This is fascinating. I'm so excited to be here. I have little to no idea what to expect. Why not? I'm not confined by time. You know, I'm bigger than that.
Depending where you are in the world, it could very well be good morning. So
exactly, it's all about perspective.
Exactly. So for those of my audience who are not familiar with you, would you like to explain a little bit about yourself and your podcast?
Sure. So, as you said, my name's Dani. Myself and my sisters have a podcast and a blog called Black Girl Wrestling that we really started because we saw way too many weirdos in the wrestling space that were way too loud. And that's not cool. Also, they're very much not funny. So all those things in combination doesn't work for me, brother. So we created Black Girl Wrestling. One is an intent to really increase representation, but two, because there was a gap. And we're just trying to fill it. We're not like we don't consider ourselves journalists or anything like that. Just a couple of girls that love fun and wrestling.
And isn't that really what it's all about? Fun and wrestling.
You would think.
So, yeah. So I do want to ask first off, and I was kind of waiting a little bit to ask this question, but I figured I'd ask it now.
Oh no.
Tier lists that you have made. I figured I'd kick it off with this because they were very entertaining. What inspired you to make those lists?
Well, I was starting to see some tier lists that were really just based off like AEW wrestlers and whether or not I felt like they had potential to be, and WWE wrestlers, whether or not they had the potential to be world champion. And while I think that that's great, and we even do stuff like that, Black Girl Wrestling, I wrote an article about, who I thought could be some of the next Black world champions. We don't need a million people to do that. That's been done. Boxes checked. And I promised my good friend Lyric that if I hit a certain amount of followers that we would get a little creative. The tier list got way out of control. I tweet for myself, and I'm the only one I'm expecting to giggle. And then all of a sudden I had wrestlers themselves responding to me, offended by their levels. So I was like, maybe I should, let me take a step back. Lee Moriarty was not happy. Lady Frost was offended that she wasn't on the women's tier. I was like, guys, I'm sorry. This was for a giggle. This was for a tee-hee. But also I did it because, again, I feel like we're so often in a wrestling space that everybody feels like they need to critique something or they need to add something to the conversation that is negative. And I love some negativity. I love hating. But, you can balance it out sometimes. So, yeah.
Very fair. Maddie, you're up.
All right. The usual question that gets asked in every interview. What brought you to the dance? Who was the wrestler that caught your eye first and drew you into the business?
Trying to decide if I want to be honest about this. So,
give us the honest and give us the lie.
Okay.
I love both.
Okay, fine. So my lie answer, which is like close enough to the truth, was that when I was like 8, my dad took me to a Ring of Honor show while Adam Cole was world champion. None of us watched wrestling, but he gave me like a piece of the streamer that they sent out. Yeah. And I just thought that was super cool because I thought since he was in the ring that he was like the biggest deal in the world. So I say that that's my lie because it seems better. Part of my honest answer is because when I was like 10, I watched Edge and Christian, and I thought Edge was really nice to look at. Obviously, that progresses, you start gaining critical thought and like whatever, but I won't lie to you. I mean, I will, but I'll also tell you the truth. Yeah. So it was both. Adam Cole ignited an interest because I was like, who is this guy? And Edge ignited an interest because I was like, who is this guy? But in a different way. So,
Hey,
yeah.
It's all great ways to get drawn into the business. Now, representation in wrestling, you were talking about it earlier. It seems very long overdue, but we're finally getting some representation in professional wrestling. We've got plenty of people of color as world champions right now, and it's just awesome to see all around. What does it mean to you to see all this representation finally?
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, growing up as a wrestling fan, if you would have told me that the wrestling landscape looked like this, like I would have been over the moon. You know, you see the success of people that are more than deserving, and to me it just breaks my heart a little bit to think of all the people that also could have been world champions or also should have, you know, gotten their due, but have been passed over, or, you know, this, that, or a third. So it's really amazing to see, but in my sort of pragmatic mind, I'm thinking, all right, so we have these world champions right now. Who are we preparing to be next? You know, I don't want this to be a wave that comes and goes, where we, you know, this is what we have right now, but we don't have anybody else that we're pouring into to prepare them to be those next champions. So wanting to make sure that it's representation at every level, you know, supporting people of color in their endeavors to be successful in wrestling, really all around, because there's lack of that representation still everywhere, you know. So I love it. The Willow Mercedes main event, real tears. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
You know, it's funny. Like after we close this show, I'm going to make a TikTok doing the CEO dance. I'm just putting that out there. As I should. Listen, if I'm
have you been practicing, or is this like a?
I'm actually, I'm surprisingly good with picking up on things pretty quickly, and being the Mercedes fan that I am, I feel it's my duty to do that.
Do you have rhythm?
Yes.
Do you have rhythm?
I mean, there are dances of me on the internet. Actually, I showed you that one. I'm pretty sure I tweeted that link to you.
You did, because I asked if anybody wanted a dance battle. That's true. Yes. That's true.
Dance battle.
Okay. I mean, if you like it, I love it. The CEO dance itself, though, I keep seeing Osprey do it. I'm like, I feel like we could add some more steps. You know, that it's a little simple to me. So
more than just a shower.
Yeah, I'm like, we can get in the lab. We can think of something. A little two-step, little something, you know.
Yeah, but it's also easy and people can pick it up. So like, if something is, because if you have something like 15 steps in there, it's like, oh, that's a little too complicated.
But
like,
I don't know, because look at, like, people can't do the swerve dance, which is insane to me.
It's so bad seeing people try.
I've done that too. I'm
like, guys, we need to, like, a come to Jesus moment. All right. If you're not sure, keep it to yourself. All right. If you haven't been at home trying to catch the beat, don't try it for the first time when you might be on national TV. Me personally, I think I would keep that in the drafts. But, to each their own. I'm an ally.
To each their own. You get it.
Well, I'm going to throw this up there. Like, if anybody wants to submit a question for Dani or to donate and get a wheel spin, listen, if wheel spin lands on entrance, I will do the na-na dance on this show.
Oh, wow.
So I'll just put that out there.
You're so brave.
It's all about entertaining the people. It's about having fun. Like, I could sit here and critique shows and watch shows and do reviews of shows all day. I don't want to do that. If I'm being honest, I just want to talk and entertain.
Yeah. I'm always telling people, like, if you're listening to my podcast or if you're reading my blog or anything like that, yeah, it's about giggling with the girls and laughing with the locker room leader. That's what we do over here. So glad to hear it's the same energy.
Exactly. Same wavelength right here.
Yeah.
Going back to representation, I do want to talk. I know it's been 3 years since it happened, but the WrestleMania main event of Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair, and how important that was to you. In my opinion, and I might be a little biased, the superior women's WrestleMania main event. What do you?
But I know I'm biased.
Yeah, exactly. What do you feel? How much did that moment mean to you, seeing that match?
That meant the world, especially because of the history that WWE has with treating women of color. It sometimes felt like that moment would never come, to be candid. And especially for it to come for those two individuals who themselves were deserving of that moment to be able to face each other. Um, because I'll say a lot of times, controversial take. A lot of times, especially in 2024, sometimes it feels like we're doing things to check boxes to say that, oh yes, we have had this. We have, nobody look at the record books. We've done that. We've done that.
Mhm.
This match it included two people that are absolutely two of the best in the world that deserve to be on that platform, deserve to be on that stage. And it just meant so much. Also seeing how much it meant to them, yeah, I still get chills when I think about that match. And it's really kind of a shame how few and far between those moments are, because ideally in a world where we had equal and equitable representation, we wouldn't have to be referencing matches from 3 years ago. There have been major moments in between, but I know what you mean. Was like that one stood out. Ideally, we would have more to be able to go on and more to talk about. So I think it's just another example of, you know, that match itself meant the world. I wish that it could have led to more after.
That's fair. And fortunately, Bianca has become one of the biggest, if not the
Yeah,
biggest,
that
women's
it
stars in all of pro wrestling, not just WWE. And of course, this past weekend at Double or Nothing, we had the Mercedes Moné and Willow Nightingale match, which just absolutely stole the show. I still think AEW has some work to do, being that their longest women's match is 18 minutes. Come on, guys.
Yeah, go women. Yeah. Actually, I'm hearing that women can't physically do it. That's what they're saying. They're like, yeah, 20 minutes. Nope. It's not possible. So,
we can
yeah.
go BS. Mercedes has done 2 women's Ironman matches.
No, I don't think so. I'm just like, yeah, it's ridiculous. And so again, like sometimes we find ourselves like clapping for things, and it's sort of that cognitive dissonance where you're like, I'm enjoying this moment, but also, we should be
took
getting
way
more than
too
this.
long.
There should be more than this, all the time. But, that's just me being cynical, I think.
Exactly. Maddie, go ahead.
All right, let's dip outside of pro wrestling a little bit. What are your other hobbies, other ventures that you maybe want to take outside of professional wrestling?
Well, I work in sports outside of pro wrestling. So I really love that. I think that one of my goals is to kind of expand Black Girl Wrestling to just sort of be sports as a whole. To encompass,
what type of sports do you follow? For the most part?
I'm a big race girl. So IndyCar, F1, NASCAR, everything. So yeah. So that, I mean, my line of work is kind of weird. I got my degree in like Spanish and sociology, and a minor in ethnic studies, so like Swahili. So I spent a lot of time, I think this is kind of corny to say, but like I spent a lot of time trying to understand how people communicate to each other, because I feel like that is really what holds us back as a society. We don't understand each other. And so, yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of corny, but that's what I do a lot in my free time. Is what I do for one of my day jobs, just really working on that. And outside of that, my favorite thing to do is to hate. I love that.
Okay.
Sometimes sit at home and I'm, working on what can I be mean about today. So I really like to focus a lot of my energy on that. So, yeah, that can be time consuming. It doesn't necessarily pay well, but one day.
Hey, hating is a full-time job.
Yeah, that's what the burner accounts are for. Absolutely, yeah.
So IndyCar is a very interesting niche sport. How did you get into IndyCar? Is there like a line of mechanics in your family that got you into it as well, or?
No. So I started off as an F1 fan because the love of my life is Lewis Hamilton. He doesn't know it, but you know, it's fine.
Hey, we love it here.
We do. And I really started watching him because I tuned in one day and I was like, I didn't know that there were people that looked like me that were even in this world, let alone winning. And so from there, just kind of went down a rabbit hole, and IndyCar made more sense. I live in the Midwest, as far as to get like involved. So started going to a whole bunch of races, really tried to understand like every aspect. So whether it's travel and logistics, whether it's comms, whether it's, you know, the cars themselves, like just really fascinated by the sport, because I think it's a combination of skill, strategy, and luck. And any day that you don't have all three, you're kind of screwed. And that's really fun to me.
Before we hop over to Greg, have you hopped behind the wheel of one yet, or do you want to?
Okay, here's the thing, right? I don't drive a regular car because it scares me. And I think that my love of racing has just made me more scared to drive, because now I understand all the things that can go wrong, you know? So yeah, I mean, I don't drive my regular car, so I don't think driving in a car that speed would be a great idea, although I think I'd be good at it. But then again, that could just be delusion. So, yeah.
All right, Greg.
Well, I'm sure driving in the Midwest is pretty crazy anyway.
Yeah, depending on where you're at, that's wild.
Yeah. So you mentioned, obviously, you know, being a fan of F1, being a fan of racing, and you want to get more into sports. Are there any sports that, other than racing, that grab your attention that you're a fan of?
Yeah. So my family, we're huge sports fans. We mainly, honestly, grew up watching mostly women's sports. So softball in our house is by far the most popular. And so right now with the Women's College World Series, that is consuming a great deal of our time. Luckily, it starts tomorrow and not tonight, because otherwise I'd have to make a choice. So
Fair.
softball, I'm a huge football fan. Shout out to the Colts. I'm not a basketball fan, but my heart is with the Indiana Pacers. So yeah, really, I'm trying to get into hockey, because I love that they fight. That's really fun. The sport itself, I'm like, but I want to know what the drama is behind the scenes that makes them so mad, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I will pretty much watch anything that's on, but those are the things that I'm tuned into for sure.
Okay.
Now, being a fan of the Colts, you know, I'm actually a fan of a Midwest team also. In college, I'm a fan of Notre Dame.
Oh. Okay.
Listen, I get that a lot.
Okay.
You really do, Greg. Like every guest.
Listen,
Okay.
I choose violence with my teams because I choose the teams that more often than not are hated. Like,
well, I can't talk. I'm a Bama fan. So I know. I know. I can't say too much, but you know, Notre Dame.
I have to hold my tongue because of that national championship game.
It's okay. I'm a CU fan. We haven't done shit in 20 years.
Yeah, I was like, maybe no. Notre Dame is cool, yeah. Yeah.
Listen, I'm rooting for Marcus Freeman. You know, I hope.
I mean, me too. But I don't think I could ever root for Notre Dame on purpose.
I mean, that's fair.
My mom's a big Notre Dame fan, so maybe she'd get it. You know? Yeah.
There you go. That works. Lost my train of thought.
My bad.
So
I can hop in quick if you need me to.
Well, you mentioned women's sports, and obviously with Caitlin Clark making a lot of news with joining the WNBA. You know, has the WNBA and like women's college basketball been a thing in your house as well?
Absolutely. So we were Fever fans before this, just because, you know, that's what you root for. We're women's sports fans. It's been rough. All right. We've been through so many coaches. And even with the rookie of the year last year, I was like, we don't want to watch this. And it was funny because I was literally on Twitter earlier and they announced like this partnership with a restaurant, and they were like, yeah, if they win, you get a free side. I'm like, it used to be a single macaroon. We were in the trenches. So Caitlin Clark being on the Fever has been massive, and I think it's really cool, like especially living in the Midwest, it's really cool to see women women's sports and female athletes be treated like superstars, because for so long you've had these women that are immensely talented and playing their absolute hearts out and getting no recognition for it. And so it's cool to walk outside and to see the huge Gatorade ads with Caitlin Clark. It's amazing to see, you know. And I just think about like softball specifically. Um, Even though there is a professional league, they've been through like so many and trying to rebrand and trying to redo them. Like it felt like for a long time the pinnacle was college sports, was college softball. And so to see now all of the money that's being reinvested back into women's sports, especially on the professional level, so that these fantastic athletes can continue their careers, it's amazing. And I'm a Caitlin Clark fan. I'm an Angel Reese fan. I'm a Camilla fan. And I think the women's Final Four this past year did so much, not just for women's basketball, but for women's sports. And yeah, it's awesome to see. I love it.
You know, I'm hoping there will be a day where, you know, women's sports are more prevalent and that they can, you know, be on the level of men's sports, because I mean, sports in general are such a big deal that, you know, women should not be left out of it, because they're insanely talented and athletic women too.
Dude, Caitlin Clark can outshoot any guy that is in the NBA Final Four right now, I believe.
I don't disagree with you. Looking at the teams that are still there, there were absolutely moments when in this last series with the Pacers where I was like, y'all know Caitlin lives here. I don't know how that works roster wise, but if Tyrese is out, we have a guard. You know, yeah. I think
like, have her throw up threes.
Yeah, I'm like, shoot, why not try something? What we're doing ain't working. But yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome, and I think it kind of, even in the wrestling space, like we always sort of talk about women's sports as separate instead of under the umbrella of sports themselves, if just that makes sense. Yeah, you know, it's the NBA and the WNBA, which like is cool because you need to identify them, but at the end of the day, what is it? Basketball. Theirs doesn't have a gendered letter before that. We get it. It was first, like whatever. But yeah, I think we just have this habit of putting these things in these different boxes. And I think for so long, like it was also an accessibility thing. Like, and you can make the argument about, you know, women's wrestling and TV, but to see it, to even just be able to see women's sports, you had to go the extra mile. You had to seek it out instead of just like turning on ABC or ESPN. Like you had to know what you were looking for, and you had to want that instead of just being able to be a casual viewer that can tune in and see that. Now the problem becomes that as women's sports get bigger and bigger, more men have opinions. And while I love to see the sport grow, I also wish a lot of people would shut up. And I think we have the same thing like when we have amazing women's matches, which is I'm glad everybody has an opinion. However, a lot of you are not thinking in a nuanced enough way. I'm trying to be nice about this. A lot of you guys are not smart enough.
Oh, you don't gotta be nice about it.
I'm like, you guys are not smart enough to be commenting on this situation. So let's just keep it to ourselves.
Listen, I support that because, you know, there are a lot of times, and I mean a lot of times, where the women's matches are better than the men's. Like let's call it point. Especially recently, you know, the women. It sucks that the women were held back for so long that we're just now getting into their superstars on their own. But I'm glad we finally got here, because we needed to progress past where we were to the women are the focus. It's a good thing. Maddie, go ahead.
let's stick on the topic of representation, because just talking with you over the last 20 minutes about sports, you have a lot more knowledge than half of the people I see on Twitter about sports.
Nice.
There is a very distinct lack of women's representation in sports media, and I can understand why, because the men in the space try to push y'all out anytime you put a valid argument. I don't understand it, but you've got a very great mind about what you're talking about in sports. And I'm assuming you've had to deal with backlash on some of your takes.
Yeah, see, I think, well, I have a lot of thoughts on this. What I'll say is, I also am intentional in the way that I present myself, especially on platforms like Twitter, where I'm like, okay, I am going to present myself as like a conceited, arrogant, like person, like princess. Like, yes, everyone needs to listen to me. That's what needs to happen. Because I know that that's the commentary that's going to be, received. It's going to be like, oh, she thinks she knows everything. She thinks she whatever. So I'm just going to say that I do. And then, so I'm taking away that argument. Men also, like, respectfully, they're not haters enough to their core. A lot of times the things that I'll see in my comments or in my mentions are things that I'm like, that's so basic. They're big threes. They'll be like, you're fat, you're ugly, and you're stupid or whatever. I'm like, those are things that we said to people when we were in elementary school. If I want to be a hater, I'm going to get your wife to leave you. Okay. So different levels. Okay.
You took Greg out a shot.
That might be one of the best comments I've ever heard from a guest on this show.
That might be the best sound bit of the Greg Cherry show ever.
I'm just like, we're not on the same wavelength. We're not on the same level. You think you're being mean, I'll ruin your life. So I also think
that's so much.
My apologies. I also think
don't apologize. That was fantastic.
that a lot of times women in this space, especially because there are so few, and especially because a lot of the gatekeepers to access and things like media passes or this, that, and a third, like interview access, are men. So I feel like women feel like they have to be nicer to men at some points or not respond to all these things. I don't care. This isn't my career. This isn't my day job. I have no problem, being as mean to you as you are to me. And I do that because not in the interest of like ego or self-preservation, but to set a precedent that, okay, you think that that's cool to say. I promise you what I'm going to say to you is going to be worse. And now we can call it even because you went first. So I think being a woman in this space, particularly a Black woman, so you have like that intersection of people who are just absolute losers. That's another thing. I'm not taking commentary from people that never mind.
Oh no, I feel exactly what you're talking about because it is fucking ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
It's like I'll be in the nicest way possible. There's a certain demographic that can't hurt my feelings if they try. So this idea that, this is going to stop me from saying what I want to say, honest to God, I don't care what you have to think about it. And I know that that's also why I rub people the wrong way, some people, because they want their comments to mean something to me. But I don't respect you is the thing. So you have to factor that in.
We need a lot more of you in the wrestling media sphere.
We absolutely do.
Holy shit.
Or just a presence on Twitter. Twitter is such a cesspool. And like having people like you who, are just, first of all, hilarious. And second of all, know what they're talking about. Like we need more of that. And there are so many people, I feel like, that just say things to get clicks.
They absolutely do. And, I've said this many times, right? I will absolutely sell my soul for a check. The check hasn't come yet. So until that happens, I have no business engagement farming or shit like that. This is just what I think. And if you're not cool with it, that's fine. We're strangers on the internet. Why do you care what I think? And so I think Black Girl Wrestling was really my attempt at, like, I've said, like, sort of like Barbie Land. If you've seen the movie, before it gets invaded, Barbie Land, and that we're just gonna do whatever. And there is sort of this barrier that's up, because I'm like, no, I want to make these racist incels feel even more uncomfortable than they've made people be on the receiving end of. So, like, yeah, if nobody's gonna tell you that you need to shut the fuck, that you need to shut up, I will.
You don't have to censor yourself on the show.
Yeah, I was about to say, Greg has me on his show, and I say fuck every other word almost.
I'm trying to heal, though. I'm trying to heal. I'm trying to be a better person. This is day one of the journey, though. So
this is day one.
Hey, listen, I'm glad we're here for the start of the journey.
Yeah, I'll let you know how it goes.
I appreciate it.
So you said you and your sisters started up the podcast. How long have you guys been going for now?
I thought you were going to ask how long we've been sisters. I was like, so we started it about 8 months ago, which actually we really got into it. We made a few episodes, but like we were not committed to it at all. It was just something that we did like occasionally, which I would argue still kind of the case. But I was on Twitter one day, and Indiana Pacers superstar Tyrese Halliburton was saying that he had 2 extra tickets to Fastlane, the WWE event that was happening around here. And I was like, it was like 20 minutes before the show started. And I was like, can I have them? And he sent them to me. And so my sister and I rushed out. Yeah, so shout out to Tyrese Halliburton, a bestie of the channel. But that was our first live event in a while. And I think it really reignited us and our love for wanting to do it. But it also had like that sense of, it sort of felt like it was a little bit destined because the timing was right. And yeah, so shout out to Tyrese Halliburton. He helped with the rebirth of Black Girl Wrestling about 7 months ago.
Hell yeah. All right, Greg.
So if you had to think about current favorites in wrestling, and it could be male, female, whatever the case may be, who would those be for? And you can name any company, really. It's pretty open-ended. Yeah,
so I'll start with, Black Girl Wrestling. A black girl, Athena. And I know that's like sort of the basic answer that people that are trying to be cool will give now. But I mean, at the end of the day, I just think it's true. I can't remember the last time we saw her have a bad match. She is just absolutely insane in the ring. And I hope that more and more people are able to see that and recognize that. And then we have my all-timers, which is Kenny Omega is, means so much to us and to the brand. He was really the catalyst for me getting deeper into wrestling. When I was in college, I say it like that was so long ago, like last year. When I was in college, like a few years ago, stumbling upon, the Bullet Club and going down rabbit holes and expanding, really expanding my horizons of wrestling outside of the US even. So I credit him with a lot of that inspiration as well. Yeah, and beyond that, I think next up is Takeshita. Every episode of everything that I do, I mention that I don't understand why he's not like president of the universe or CEO of the world, let alone a wrestling title. So yeah, those are my favorites right now.
Takeshita's a great shout as well. Man wrote a fucking college thesis on the German suplex.
He's so real for that, bro. He's so real. Ugh. What a guy.
Takeshita, I think, would be a great TNT champion now that Adam Copeland got injured. So we'll see if anything comes of that.
The bane of my existence is the TNT title. I've never liked it. I understand why we have it, but now I think, shout out to Adam Copeland. I hope he has a speedy and safe recovery. Wasn't thrilled with his title reign, and now I'm like, let's get back to real hoops. All right, put Takeshita in there. I think it's gonna be Jack Perry, but I don't want that.
Especially since the Bucks are going to be doing the announcement for it and everything. They could just give him the belt.
Yeah. Which I think would be fun, honestly. But I don't want that.
It'd be a great story, but yeah.
I feel like that's a cheap way out, though. Like, I know they're heels,
Yeah.
right? Like, I feel like that's such a cheap.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he won Anarchy in the arena, but come on.
He hasn't done anything, Your Honor.
What would you say your favorite wrestling match of all time is? And also, I will ask a guilty pleasure match, one that you will always go back to for shits and grins.
Okay. So this is a fun fact about me and Black Girl Wrestling. When I had the opportunity to do to get media creds for, what was that show called? Dynasty. I asked Will Ospreay what he thought his best performance was, or if he thought that match with Danielson was his best. He said yes, he thought it was his best ever, and I was not satisfied with that. So I am going back and watching every single Ospreay match on the internet. I have a spreadsheet that
even the progress matches.
I have watched 164 matches since he made that statement to me, and. I said, I think I'm gonna end up making like my own cage match. I'm gonna be the Black Dave Meltzer. It's just gonna my own system, because I'm like, who else cares?
More reputable.
So with that, I will say the match that I go back to as a reference point to whether I'm like, oh, was that match better than this? Is Omega Ospreay one. It's a cop out because it's so easy. I also love Omega Ibushi DDT. Their first match. That means a lot to me because Ibushi is another one of my all-time
That was
faves.
Hurricane Rana off the top to the floor, right?
Means so much to me, so personal to me. And then a guilty pleasure match. Let me think. Okay, well, I really enjoyed the. That's hard because I feel like guilty pleasure implies that you're like scared to say it, and I don't do anything 10 toes down. So wait, what are y'all's? Give me some frame of reference.
Okay, so mine is a weird choice, and it's because I've publicly stated that I don't care for barbed wire matches. But it's Sabu and Abyss from what was that team?
Barbed Wire Massacre?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh.
Listen, I don't care because like I refuse to watch Sabu and Terry Funk from ECW.
Yeah.
But like the Sabu and Abyss match, for some reason, I just enjoy it. I don't know what it is.
You know what? You live your truth.
I'm a death match guy. Will Ospreay versus Jimmy Havoc, 2 out of 3 falls death match from, I believe, Violent Ends Have Violent Means Progress. I don't remember the exact title of it, but yes, I've never seen Ospreay like that before, and I haven't seen him like that after.
Yeah, and I would argue that you shouldn't see most people like that ever. Yeah, that match was insane. I love death matches. I want things to be as sadistic as possible. Like this past weekend, they had Darby upside down like rotisserie chicken. I was like, yeah, leave him there.
They lit Perry on fire.
Yeah, do it again. I don't know. Oh, that's hard. I don't know that I have a guilty pleasure match. I will say I often go back and watch Rio and Britt Baker, which I know is a controversial figure to state that of, but I don't know. That match just makes me, it just brings comfort to me because times were so simple, you know. Got Britt Baker, the biggest star, and Rio. Who doesn't love Rio? So yeah, just a simple little match.
Surprised you didn't say what was that? Orange Cassidy, Jericho, the champagne mimosa match.
The Mimosa Mayhem match.
I
yeah.
hate Chris Jericho so much.
Understandable.
And I know we all hate Chris Jericho. No, I hate Chris Jericho. Okay,
Like you've been hating Chris Jericho.
I've been hating Chris Jericho. Okay, so I understand. Like everybody now is like upset with his, his amount of screen time and the learning tree thing. I'm like, no, you guys not real haters. It's not in your heart for real. I've been mad at him ever since he retired, because I was like, why would you do that? Now, mind you, I was a child. I didn't understand that he had been injured and what that actually meant on a personal level. But he fake retired and he pissed me off, and I didn't like it. And so ever since, Chris Jericho and I are enemies. I want him to know that. I've said it at every platform all the time. I don't respect him. I don't like him. And I don't care who hears that. So Chris Jericho, Orange Cassidy hurts my heart because it meant Chris Jericho was on TV.
Oh, you ready for this 30-minute segment we're about to get tonight?
I'm going to go to jail. When I saw they had Shibata take another pin in a Jericho match, I was like, someone needs to restrain me immediately.
Shibata took a pinfall inside of a trash can.
But this is like, we've done it in tag matches, we've done it, in singles matches, and now it seems like we're always just gonna have Chris Jericho pin Shibata, and that yeah, I need to be physically restrained. You guys are gonna have to help me with my bail. But Holy shit. Saw that he was going to be speaking tonight, and the rage I felt, I should probably speak to someone about it.
I don't mean to irritate y'all anymore, but I just realized Shibata was known as the wrestler. Jericho's had a rivalry with Mickey Rourke at WrestleMania. What are the odds that we see the wrestler come to AEW TV?
I just feel like when you say things like that, it's pretty insensitive. That's pretty rude. I don't understand why you would kill the vibes like that. Oh. So, I mean, okay.
All right, Greg, change the subject.
Okay, moving off of him. Let's focus on WWE. Is there anything going on in WWE that? I guess we'll go this way. What is your favorite storyline currently in WWE?
I will be honest. My week-to-week viewership of WWE can kind of dip in and out. But at the end of the day, Bianca and Jade. Of course. One, because obviously you can see that eventually it's going to lead to an absolutely fire singles match. But two, because so often we have the underutilization of Black women in wrestling. And so to see these two be paired together in a way that makes sense, they're similar in size, they're similar in strength. It makes sense rather than just feeling like a lot of times the women's division, women's tag division over there is very like thrown together. Yeah, so in a way that actually, like I said, feels cohesive, feels like it's and they're good. So yeah, that's by far what I'm most interested in. Dom and Liv Morgan, gotta be honest, don't really get where we're going there. But yeah. I watch WWE more so when I know that some of my favorites are gonna be there. That's when I know that I'll be tuned in. But yeah, I don't consider it to be like something I'm always checking for.
For someone who talks a lot of wrestling, I am a horrible wrestling fan. I only catch up with PLEs, pay-per-views. I'll tune into like the YouTube bits or what I see on Twitter, but there's not enough time to catch everything now.
No, and I feel like at some point, right, if you're watching everything all the time, you probably need to take a deep breath and explore some other hobbies. because I think it's like not even trying to be funny. I think it's important to have that balance because if all you're doing is watching and critiquing, like there's no way that you're actually going to be enjoying what's happening. You know, you're so focused on either getting to the next thing to watch or putting a negative opinion about the first thing. Like, get a grip.
Yeah,
basically a whole bunch of Bill Belichick's in the wrestling sphere.
Don't say that to me. A Patriots mention unnecessary, but
I agree. I can't stand the city of Boston.
I've hated the Patriots since Brady, so
me too.
I mean, fair enough. Should have been natural. Should have been in your bones, but okay.
Jesse James caught that ball.
That's a deep shout. That's a deep shout, Greg.
I will carry that till the day I die. I was so pissed.
It's okay because I love to pretend like Deflategate made a difference in a game that we lost by 30. That was the difference maker, guys. No. Had the ball been fully, you don't get it. So sometimes it's
had
good.
The ball been inflated.
Yeah,
Luck
it would have been 29 instead of 30.
Yeah. So take that and shove it up your ass, Brady. There is no love lost for Tom Brady on this channel.
Absolutely none.
There shouldn't be on Earth even.
I'm interested to see how he does as a commentator on Fox, though.
I'm not. I hope he would shut up forever.
I don't think Brady has the personality to be a commentator.
He doesn't. He doesn't even have the. Never mind.
I don't know.
I was going to say he doesn't have the personality to keep a family. So
no, he definitely don't got that. He sure shit don't got that.
I don't understand how the rest of America is supposed to be charmed.
But I think he can carry a conversation about football. That's the only thing that I think saves his ass there is he's talking about football.
But that's not really enough these days. Like,
no, because Greg Olson's fantastic.
I mean,
he just won an award too.
I like Greg Olson as a commentator. He probably got CTE, but
doesn't everybody?
No, listen, just wait. One of these days, we're gonna have Gronkowski in the booth calling a football game, and it's gonna be worse than listening to Pat McAfee calling a wrestling match.
When I tell you, I watch most sports on mute because I
watch all wrestling on mute.
I'm like, I don't need to know what you think you're saying because I can see it. Dear God,
I can commentate this shit myself.
Exactly.
It was bad enough that Gronkowski was 24/7 champion. Okay,
I forgot about that.
He at least did that bump.
So was everyone. Rob Gronkowski, shut up. We don't like you.
Who else? Who was Pat Buck or Joe Buck, the fucking MLB guy? I believe so. Let me see.
I thought Pat Buck was the guy who worked backstage.
I think it was Joe Buck. 24/7 title.
Anyway. My gosh. So I do want to circle back to your love of hate.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We love to hate here.
We do. And if you're on Twitter a lot, you see a lot of stupid comments. Are there anybody who are haters of people that you just appreciate? Like you see the snarky things that they say.
My fellow homies in hate. Well, I think, and what I've always said about Black Girl Wrestling, I want it to be a place where you can hate, but not cross boundaries. I want to hate, but be inclusive, right? So there's no reason to cross these lines and, talk about, if you have to do something that ends with ism, you're not good enough at your job as a hater. So I really appreciate Jake is a homie of mine. Jake the Snake, great hater. Vince is a great hater. And at Cozy Heartache, another fantastic hater. Those are my core my core haters right there. Because again, like I said, I think it's about being able to say what you want to say and express your, disdain for something or someone without, insulting someone's personhood like a loser.
Exactly. being creative with it. Like you have to have creative digs at people, otherwise it's just kind of lame.
Hell, dude,
Exactly,
if Samoa Joe has to say it, you know you guys are bad at saying shit.
Exactly. I'm like, there's so many ways to be mean to people. Get better.
Also, it was I looked it up. It was Rob Stone from Fox,
Yeah,
not
I
Joe Buck.
I knew it
I
wasn't.
still
Joe.
have absolutely no idea who.
You know what
Rob
I will
Stone
say though,
is.
right? This is my controversial take. Well, I have a lot of them. One of my controversial takes. You know, WWE has the speed title. I think AEW should have a heroin title.
Do we
Right,
do we
right,
need
same
explanation, or should that just be another clip that we use from this show?
Same concept, you know.
we
but
gotta. Who we giving that to? Who we giving that
who
to?
would be the first AEW heroine?
See, if you put an E at the end, you can make it a women's title, and it would be
Yeah.
completely under the radar.
Yeah, women.
I can't believe y'all.
You go, girl. Who gives? I was gonna say who gives heroin, but maybe, maybe not.
I mean, about 20 years ago, we could probably answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, you have to tread lightly.
Oh my God.
I think Pac would be a great AEW heroin champion.
There ain't a vein on that body that you can't see. So
Exactly. Moves quick enough. You're like, damn, you got to be on something, but he's not.
Boy on something.
Oh boy. Oh, crying out loud.
Oh Lord, that's incredible.
I'm glad you guys like that. You know, I was like, I feel like it's a natural one too. You know.
So
Absolutely.
But before we head off, I guess my last question will be, since you brought up that, what would you say your most controversial take on professional wrestling is?
Oh, that's a good question. I've got lots. I think my most controversial take on pro wrestling is that it's really, really funny how hard people gatekeep something that is predetermined.
Oh
And
my
so thinking
God.
about like wrestling media and shit, I'm like, you're really mad. I need you to know, like, we already know what's gonna happen. And if you don't, you can make a pretty damn good guess. But my other controversial take is that people that place bets on wrestling, you probably need to see
Need a little bit of help. I'm
You
a
need to be in a
degenerate gambler,
facility.
but I don't gamble on pro wrestling.
expeditiously. This
Yeah,
is
I
like,
would be.
yeah. So the whole DraftKings thing, I think they need to put the number for help a lot bigger.
Listen, if I was betting with their money, I'd probably do it, but I'm not spending my own to do it.
No, and honestly,
Oh, yeah.
my other controversial take, and this is what I'll leave you with, AEW needs to let me design one t-shirt, one pink crop top that will outsell. You guys just don't get it. So wrestling merch needs to be more wrestling merch geared towards women. That's not just the same male designs, but tighter fitted. So,
You know, I actually, you just pointed out something. There isn't a whole lot of like women's style designs for shirts. There's not crop tops. They're all like the basic t-shirt design
that are just like tighter and more fitted because they don't have any women back there thinking of those things.
I don't know if they have anybody thinking of those designs. Do you see the latest
Did you see
MJF one?
MJF's new one?
Like, go girl, give us nothing.
Like, I design my shirts in PowerPoint and they're better than that. Like, what the hell?
I'm like, well, I just think that, you know, there's a gap. So I don't want to be too controversial, you know. I'm kidding. But yeah, like I'm just like, you need more women at every decision stage, because a lot of this shit, you think you know what you're talking about, and you're making decisions for women as men, and you need to not do that.
Yeah. All right, Dani, we are coming to the end of the show. Let people know where they can find you. This has been an incredibly entertaining hour, if I may say so myself.
Oh yeah.
God, guys, that's so nice. You can find me at the club or at Dani Don't Miss on Twitter or at Black Girl Wrestling on Twitter, Instagram, and our podcast on Spotify.
Yes, and that's Black Girl Wrestling, BLK Girl Wrestling. There's no A's in there. Just for the record, in case anybody goes to search it. Dani, thank you so much for giving us several clippable moments for this show. It's been,
you gave us maybe the greatest soundbite of any Greg Cherry show of all time.
I'm putting that on Twitter as soon as this show is done, like processing and whatever. I'm clipping that and putting it on there.
Glad to help everybody.
That may be my favorite comment in the last 4 years, and I'm not joking. Thank you so much, Dani, for being a part of the show. Next week on the show, our interview series continues. We have Canary joining us, and she'll be a fun guest. And then I will say June 19th, the Greg Cherry show that's going to air that day will be the day I reveal the very special guests for Jack of All Trades in June. I've given a brief hint to Maddie and a brief hint to Jeff, but that's all I'm giving.
You give that brief hint to Chris Cass, I guarantee you he'll guess it.
Here's the thing. I can't, I'm not going to give it to Cass because he's the champion. He's got to sweat it out. I know you're going to be on that, but still. So tune in 3 weeks from tonight for the reveal of that very special guest. Dani, again, thank you so much. Go check out Dani on Twitter. Go check out Black Girl Wrestling. Go check out that podcast. A lot of fun. Thank you so much, Dani, for being on the show.
Thank you, Dani.
Thanks, y'all.
And we will see you next week on the Greg Cherry Show. Have a good night.